Hi, it's Dorothy Guining with Scrapbooking Quebec. Today I'm here for Mercy Tiara Kits and I'm going to be creating a sketch-inspired double-page layout featuring the June 2024 release called Sunshine. This kit combines products from Echo Park Paper, Pink Fresh Studio, Doodlebug Design, and more. You're about to see my narrowed down selection. The pattern paper is from Echo Park Paper's My Best Life collection and Fairy Garden by Doodlebug Design. The embellishments are also from Echo Park Paper and also Pink Fresh Studio. This kit is sunny, bright, beautiful, and if you want a closer look at everything, check out my unboxing video. I will put a link to it below. You will also find links to the Mercy Tiara Kits shop, Instagram, and Facebook group. Here is my jumping off point. It's a Kristine Davidson sketch from Creative Scrappers. It's actually the June Sketch Challenge in the Mercy Tiara Kits Facebook group. And if you participate, you may win a prize. It's a $25 gift certificate to the shop, so that's really fun. My plan is to take this sketch, stretch it into a double page spread, and it should be easy. All I'm going to do is take those strips of paper, stretch them to the right, and add more photos. So let's jump right in. And the first thing you're going to see is that I prepared a foundation page in advance with 6 sheets of paper. Now, normally I got 4 of them. This time I only got 2 of them. There is a tutorial on my channel where I explain how to do that, so that will be listed and linked below. The paper I gutted was that green floral paper. I also have that orange paper that's from Echo Park Paper. The yellow one is from Doodlebug Design. You're going to see in a moment I did mat my photos. These are all matted in gray cardstock. I actually add more photos later on in the process. I have the sketch handy as well. It's on the back side of the newsletter that comes with the kit. It's also on the Facebook group as well. In this tray, I have all of my embellishing. So I basically narrowed down my selection here. I have ephemera and chipboard from Echo Park Paper's My Best Life collection. I have a couple sticker sheets here, both from Pink Fresh Studio. One is cardstock stickers, the other is chipboard. Those alphas were from Pink Fresh Studio as well. And now what I'm showing you are some fussy cut flowers that I cut out from one of the papers that was in the main kit. I'm going to talk about those fussy cut flowers later on in the process when I embellish my page. Now, I also want to mention that everything I'm using here is from the main kit and the embellishment add-on. You can see the sketches in the top left-hand corner there. What I'm doing right now is cutting up a bunch of strips of paper. So I'm cutting out 6 strips in 3 different pattern papers. I only end up using 5, but at this point I cut out 6 of them. I will put measurements on the screen for everything I'm doing, but these strips measure 3 inches by 8.5. So what I'm going to do in a minute is tidy up this mess, and I want to talk about my photos, a photo flip and adding extra photos. I want to talk about my title and the journaling. I'm just showing you my 6 strips of paper. Again, I only end up using 5 of them. I have 2 in each color. So here are my photos. So at this point I have 4 photos. 3 for the right page, like on the sketch, and the largest one will be my focal point photo on the right. I'm showing you I have a piece of white cardstock folded over with extra photos inside. I call that a photo flip. There is a tutorial on my channel where I explain how to do that, so that will be listed and linked below. It's often where I house extra photos or supporting photos. On this page, for example, it's about exercise over a year-long period. Everything on top of the layout that you can see on the page is recent. Inside my little book are photos throughout the year, and 2 of the 3 photos are already in my album somewhere. I'm just adding them. Somebody can look at them if they want, but the whole story is visible on the page without even looking at this little book. I still like adding them on my page. You may have noticed I did adhere my photo on top of that little book, and I added some adhesive behind it as well. The wax paper is still on the adhesive. I'm going to adhere it later on in the process. And the adhesive I put on that one was score tape. It's a little bit more heavy duty. Now I'm showing you my title. So I already put it on wax paper. It is Goals, Goals, and More Goals. So it's on wax paper. I can play with placement. All I know at this point is that I want it to go on both pages. Now I want to talk about journaling. You can see I printed it up twice, once on vellum, once on white cardstock. I also have two little blocks there in gray and in that green floral. So that's going to be the base for my journaling box. I want to talk about how I created this journaling box. That's why the film looks weird. I actually slowed it down. Basically what I did was I typed out my journaling, printed it on regular copy paper from my computer. Then what I do, once I'm happy with all of that, is I add adhesive to my copy paper and I put a scrap of nice paper on top of it, either white cardstock or vellum. This permits me to work with scraps, to use up my scraps. Then what I do is I put the copy paper with the nice paper adhered to it through my printer again, and my printing goes on top of the nice paper that I want in my album. I just wanted to point that out. It's a great way to use up scraps of vellum and white cardstock. Now what I'm going to do is play with a bit of ink. So I'm just testing out ink on all of these pieces of paper. I decide not to go with ink for the yellow and orange. I like the crispness of it, but I do add ink to that green floral paper. So I do it to the two strips. I also do it to the journaling box as well. Now what I'm going to do is just play around with the placement of these strips of paper just to find myself a pattern that pleases me. And once I do, then what I'm going to do is play around with the placement of the photo. So you can see I'm basically creating my grid over on the left-hand page and then adding that main photo, the focal point photo, with the flip on the right. At this point, I'm trying to decide how I'm going to use that journaling box. I decide to go with the white cardstock and not the vellum. And I'm kind of certain with the title on the left page, Goals, Goals. At this point, I'm not sure for the right page. I have to embellish first. So now I'm going to start adhering. I'm starting with adhering those three blocks together for my journaling box, the gray cardstock, the green floral, then the white cardstock. Then what I will do is adhere those strips of paper to the foundation page, then my photos. I do all of that except for the focal point photo. I leave that loose until I, play around with embellishing a bit. The only trick I want to point out for my strips of paper on the left is, first of all, I'm adhering them towards the bottom to make sure I have room for my title on top, like on the sketch. But for the width of the placement, I just want to make sure that the three strips of paper are placed wide enough to accommodate my photos. That's all. And obviously, if you look at my placement, it does look a bit different than the sketch. The placement of the long and short photos are different, and also on the sketch they're more staggered. Mine are more blocky, but you can see the inspiration. Now I'm getting out the newsletter again. You may notice that the fifth strip, the orange one, isn't adhered at that point. That's because I want to add a bit of ink to the foundation page. I showed you the newsletter in that Mercy Tiara Kit newsletter. That came out funny. There is a color palette on page 2, and from that color palette I selected an ink from my stash. The ink I'm using is Soft Succulent from Stampin' Up. I just love the color palettes that are included in the newsletters that come with the kits. It's just great because I just look at that, pick out my ink colors, and it always seems to work. Anyway, what I'm doing is just adding a nice soft layer of ink over on the right hand page on the foundation page, and that's going to be a foundation layer for my main embellishment cluster. I wanted it to kind of start from underneath that orange strip. That's why I waited to adhere that orange strip. So now that my inking is done, I'm adhering that 5th strip of paper. I'm still going to leave that photo loose for a while because I do want to play around with my embellishing. So I'm going to start by showing you all of my embellishments. So I kind of narrowed down my selection here. On this tray, I have ephemera and chipboard, both from Echo Park Papers, my Best Life collection. So I just kind of picked some that I thought would work, including this banner here, which I really like. That's in chipboard. But what I really want to include is that sneaker and the sunglasses because I think it will work well with my theme of exercise. I also have an old punch from Stampin' Up! That has 2 arrows on it. I'm showing you the 2 sticker sheets from Pink Fresh Studio. They are from a collection called Picture Perfect, I think. And again, one of them is chipboard frames. The other is cardstock stickers. I also have the enamel dots there. I don't end up using those actually. I want to talk about these flowers that I cut first. So I'm showing you, I fussy cut all these flowers. I am a horrible fussy cutter, but you're going to see in a moment. I'll bring out a piece of paper. I cut up an entire piece of paper. I have the pattern paper add-on, so I didn't mind taking one piece of paper and completely cutting it up. So I cut out the flowers, didn't cut out the leaves though, because again, I'm not a very good fussy cutter. What I did instead was I found some scraps of green cardstock, found myself 2 die sets from my stash, 2 really old ones that I use all the time. One of them, the one I'm showing you now with the bunches of leaves, is called Forever Flourishing Dies from Stampin' Up! And the other one, they are smaller leaves. I think they're from Lawn Fawn, and they are these little stitched leaves. So basically, while watching YouTube last weekend, I fussy cut those flowers, die cut myself a bunch of leaves, and in a moment you're going to see I actually kind of primped up my flowers by adding sequins to the middle of them. Now I'm going to do one just to show you how easy it is. These sequins I'm using are actually part of the main kit. They're really, really beautiful. So all I'm doing is adding some liquid glue, little dots to the middle of the flowers, using this little pickup tool that I absolutely love to pick up sequins and adding them to the middle of my flower. I did that last weekend to all of those flowers, and I have a really fun ephemera pack with those leaves that I cut out with dies and scraps of cardstock, and simply by cutting up one piece of paper. So now I have all of this ready to embellish my page. The first thing I'm going to do is place my title. So I think I'm going to have goals over on the left-hand page and more goals somewhere on the right. The first thing I'm going to do is establish 3 spots where I will be placing embellishment clusters. Now I want to do this in different sizes. And when I establish the areas for my embellishment clusters, I like to repeat the same image. It's just something that I find easy. So you can see on the far right, I placed 3 die cut leaves. In the kitty corner, top left, I did that with 2 bunches of leaves. And in a moment, you're going to see I add one of them in and around that journaling box. So right off the bat, I have 3 areas in a visual triangle for my embellishment clusters, and already I've established them in different sizes. Now at this point, I'm thinking I want to change the positioning of my journaling. I'm deciding I want my embellishment cluster on the left-hand corner of that journaling box. So what I did off camera was I reprinted that journaling, but I justified it to the right as opposed to the left. That gave me a little bit of open space in case I want to overlap flowers or something there. And you'll see that when I embellish. So right now I'm adding other elements to these embellishment clusters. I'm looking for a tab for that photo flip, the focal point photo on the right. So in one of the ephemera packs, there's all these labels and tags. So they work perfectly for tabs. I added that to the right of the photo. And now what I'm doing is adding flowers to each one of these embellishment clusters. So I started the embellishment clusters all with the same thing, with bunches of leaves. Now I'm adding to them. I do add repetition, but what I add to these embellishment clusters, they don't have to be identical. what I want to do is repeat color, repeat image, basically have them relate to each other, but they don't have to be identical. What I like to be identical is the base layer of the embellishment clusters, but I don't like them to be identical in size. At this point, I've got the leaves, I've got the flowers. You may notice as well that sneaker and those sunglasses, I've added them to that cluster in the right. But now I'm playing around with the stickers, the chipboard frames, the other chipboard pieces, just trying to look at other items. But I know right now, for me to continue, I have to start adhering. I have way too many loose pieces on my desk. So what you're going to see me do in a minute is forget about these stickers and just start adhering what I've already decided upon. Basically, my embellishment clusters, my photo, as well as the title. The adhesive I'm using for these leaves is called Sticky Specs. You see me lifting like a white wax paper. Underneath there's a yellow sticky paper. I place my detailed die cut on top of it and it picks up the adhesive. You're going to see me do it later on in the other clusters as well. So now what I'm doing is, I don't know, did I add that photo? I think I've already adhered my photo down, and I also adhered the flowers as well. One of those flowers in the cluster on the right is popped up on foam adhesive. The title, I didn't adhere it quite yet. Now I'm working on the journaling box there. So once again, I did change up the white cardstock that was on top with the new positioning of the journaling. Now I'm adding the leaves, then the flowers, and once again, one of those flowers will be popped up on foam adhesive. I'm going to do the same thing with that cluster up in the top left as well. You're going to see me come in and adhere those leaves, and then I will come in and adhere the flowers, one of them being popped up with foam adhesive. I actually went and returned to that cluster on the right page. I decided to change up one of the flowers. Sometimes when I'm building these clusters, I build one, then move on to the next, and then, you know, I just decide to change my mind and switch things up a bit. It's all part of the creative process. You may have noticed as well, one of the flowers that I adhered over on the far left was just half a flower, because when I was fussy cutting that floral paper, some of them were kind of bleeding off the page, but I cut out all of the flowers, and when it's just half a flower, you end up tucking it in a cluster, so there's no waste there. Now I'm getting out this arrow punch. So this is an old punch from Stampin' Up. I wanted to add something else to these clusters that indicated energy, because this is a layout about exercise. I thought of stars and arrows. I went with arrows, and you can see I punched it out in scraps of orange and yellow paper. So I'm just playing around with the positioning of the title, especially over there on the right, and the arrows. In a moment, I'm not convinced about these arrows at this point. You're going to see me go back and punch out more, or another arrow I should say, in yellow, thinking maybe they should all be in yellow. There I go, do that right there. But in the end, I decide to go with one orange arrow. And now what I'm going to do is start adhering my title. And when I adhere the title, I'm just going to be following along the top of those strips of paper. So pretty easy. I absolutely love these alphas from Pink Fresh Studio. They're from a collection called The Small Things, I think. They were part of the main kit. I really love them. I love the size. I love the straight font. I love the color. They're like a dark green, almost dark green teal. They're really nice. Anyway, I'm not going to make you watch all of it. You're going to see in a moment my entire title is adhered to both pages. I did adhere that arrow and in the, sorry, I'm getting a bit tongue-tied, in the top left. And now I'm adhering a few more pieces there at the bottom, the sneaker and the sunglasses there on the right. And now I'm adhering those arrows on the right-hand page. So I am popping them up on foam adhesive. What I did do is I punched out some arrows in a more stiffer cardstock and adhered it behind the yellow and orange paper just to make them a little bit more sturdy because I was popping them up on foam adhesive. Now I'm going through the other elements looking for some finishing touches. What I really want to do is finish off that journaling box. It was just looking a little unfinished to me. I ended up putting a sticker there that says remember this. It was on the cardstock sticker sheet from Pink Press Studio. At this point I'm adding another sticker there, another wordy sticker on top of that photo on the right. That doesn't end up staying there. Anyway, I keep looking, but basically I'm pretty much at the end of my layout here. I'm looking now with another sticker, just seeing if I can add anything else, but I really quite like how it looks. So here is the finished layout, and off camera, I ended up adding one more leaf cluster just to that cluster over on the right hand side of the page, just towards the top of that photo. And I also removed that wordy sticker that was on top of that photo. But that's basically it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd greatly appreciate a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, Scrapbooking Quebec, I would be honored and thrilled if you did. And if you are a subscriber, thank you very, very much. Make sure to check out the Mercy Tiara Kits shop and all the other links that are listed below. Take care, and I will see you soon on YouTube. Bye-bye.